Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KNBR. But today, we got to talk about the 49ers coming off their bye week and facing the Tennessee Titans game. It's kind of easy to overlook a game like this, a trap game potentially looming for the 49ers. How do they avoid falling into that Tennessee Titan trap?
I'm Eric Crocker, one half of the Locked On 49ers crew and former NFL and AFL defensive back. And I'm here to talk about containing Tony Pollard. 49ers, where are they right now with their run defense and what might kind of hurt them in the run against the run? We're going to talk about that and much more.
Hey everyone, I'm Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm here to tell you all about the signings that came about during the bye week. Will they be an impact on the team, or they're just guys who coming in to earn a free lunch, and a trip on the next road trip, or a spot on the bus, rather?
We'll break all that down and more today on the 49ers Squad Show, which starts right now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Shout out to all our everydayers making us your first listen for everything you need to know 49ers. Make sure you are subscribed however you're getting the show, whether it's on a podcast version or on the YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed however you're getting the show. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. And today, I mean, some news for the 49ers during the bye week. Not a ton of stuff to break down, but some guys signed. No one over the age of 40, unfortunately, for the 49ers. We don't have the big topic, which is Phillip Rivers signing with the Colts, which is just wild to me. 44 years old, playing in the NFL. We were just talking about that before we got this show going. Dwayne was saying he might as well come out of retirement, jump back on the field if guys like Phillip Rivers are coming out of retirement. But we will break down the 49ers' recent signings, what they're going to do for this team. But I want to start with the trap game angle. This game, I feel like we hear that term thrown out a lot now. Trap game, just kind of like that playoff push. We talked about that last time. What does that actually mean? And Dwayne gave us a little bit of insight on that. But I kind of have the same question for you, Dwayne, and Crocky too, you as well, about a trap game. Like, is there such thing as a trap game? This is something we always talk about in media, but to me, it kind of feels like maybe a little bit overblown. Like, you aren't really overlooking anyone in the NFL, right? I mean, it's an NFL opponent. You got to show up, and everyone knows the saying, any given Sunday. So, Dwayne, is there such thing as a trap game in the NFL, or is it just kind of impossible to overlook certain opponents?
Yeah, to me, a trap game only applies to an average team. If you're an average team coming off a bye, you might run into a trap game. But if you're better than an average team, you're not going to have a problem with that, because you're going to have players that's going to be thinking ahead of that. The thing about when you play down to the level of your opponent, sure, it's going to be a trap game. But right now, the 49ers are on the roll. I don't think they'll play down to the level of their opponent. And when you do that, if you play to the level of your opponent and keep the game close, you're going to get trapped, because you got all going to come down to one guy. It's all going to come down to the kicker. And last week, the game in Cleveland, the Cleveland Browns got into a trap game, and I couldn't believe they went Wildcat on the last play of the game. The coach shouldn't have a job today. He should have been gone right after the game. They should have packed the coach's locker up and sent him out.
I mean, I don't know how you have a guy like Shedeur Sanders coming in, making his second NFL start, and he's been playing, I think, probably better than any Browns quarterback has played so far this year. And then you take the ball out of his hands in that situation. It's not going to feel good for your young quarterback who you're trying to instill some confidence in. to me, that just sounds like the Browns doing some Brown stuff. That's things that organization has done in the past to continuously shoot themselves in the foot. Sounds like they're doing more of that now. And hopefully the 49ers can avoid doing some of those things, right? Like if I feel like this is a game where if you just play buttoned up football against a rookie quarterback with Robert Saleh leading that defense, you should be fine, right, Crocky?
You should be. And you look at the Tennessee Titans, man. I mean, they're just a bad team all the way around. I've seen stats floating around. One of the worst, if not the worst, DVOA teams in the league. Bad on offense, bad on defense. So in this game, this is the 49ers. You don't want to, you talk about trap game. I wouldn't necessarily call it a trap game, but with teams like this, maybe they have a little confidence after getting things going on the ground, big returns in their last game. Now they got a little bit of momentum in their minds. And to come out there and you let them run the ball early in this game and kind of keep the 49ers on their toes and have to play honest, that's when they can be a little dangerous. And it can look like a trap game. But for me, what we used to call it is you don't want to give this team false confidence. All right. And false confidence is essentially a team that maybe doesn't have any business playing with you, but they make a few plays early on. They start looking at each other like, I think we actually can win this game, right? They start believing. And once they start believing, that's when you have a ball game. So 49ers have kind of been in that situation. You go back a few years ago, I remember the game against the Atlanta Falcons. The 49ers lost on the 1-inch line. Julio Jones catching that ball barely going into the end zone. I remember a couple years after that, 49ers losing in Atlanta to the Falcons. I felt like those were games that the 49ers were really the better team both times. But when you let a team hang around, start giving that confidence, especially 49ers, they can't have any let-ups at any point. It can turn into a trap-looking type game in a hurry.
Yeah, one thing that I think the 49ers, the biggest thing that I think they have going for them in this matchup is Robert Saleh versus a rookie quarterback, right? I mean, Cam Ward has not been putting up fantastic numbers as a rookie, but it's also not really fair to just lay that at his feet, right? Like, this is a coaching staff that isn't really putting him in great positions. This is a roster that's pretty devoid of talent and playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. He doesn't really have anyone to throw the ball to. If you think Brock Purdy's receiving options have been less than stellar this year, well, you should go check out what the Tennessee Titans have been rolling out with every week, man. It is not good news for the Titans out there right now. And you can't, like I said, you can't really fault Cam Ward, but this is a young guy who's going to be pressing to make some plays. And I mean, you look at what he did last week when they actually won, and he was only 14 of 28, 50% completion percentage, had 117 pass yards on his 14 completions, which is good enough for a 4.2 average yards per completion. That's not really lighting the world on fire, a quarterback rating of just 70.1. So this is a guy that Robert Saleh should absolutely be able to confuse, maybe generate a few turnovers off of. That would be nice to see the secondary maybe come up with a pick or two. And like I said, it's a guy who's not going to go out there and set the world on fire. I will be absolutely shocked if the Tennessee Titans are able to produce like a 100-yard receiver or anything of that sort. Their leading receiver in that win against the Browns, Tajay Spears, 2 receptions, 28 yards. So the 49ers secondary should be ready to feast on this, on Cam Ward. And if you're Robert Saleh, Dwayne, I want you to put your defensive coordinator hat back on. What are you doing to confuse Cam Ward, the rookie quarterback for Tennessee, in this one?
Well, the thing when you get a rookie quarterback, one thing that's going to confuse him a lot is pressure and disguise too. And that's one thing that the 49ers do well, is disguise in their defense, and that creates some confusion. And Cam Ward, you watch him under pressure, he doesn't know what to do with the ball. His thing is, when the pressure comes, he wants to take off running. And they won't be able to beat the 49ers by him just running the ball whenever the pressure shows up. I think you're going to look at him as a poor man's quarterback. I'm saying I thought he was overdrafted, which he was. And I never heard of the guy until he had the one good season last year. He's not a guy who's a real gunslinger. And I don't think there shouldn't be a problem with him beating the 49ers. Not at all.
Yeah, I think the 49ers should definitely be the favored team in this one, and they are. I think FanDuel has them at plus or minus 12.5 right now. So you're giving the Titans 12.5 points. 49ers favored by almost 2 touchdowns, by 2 scores in this one. So definitely the team that's supposed to win this game. But you do look at what the Titans did well last week in that win against the Browns, and it was Tony Pollard, man. He toted the ball 25 times. 161 yards. That's a 6.4 yard per carry average, a long of 65 and 2 touchdowns on the day. It's a hell of a day for Tony Pollard. One guy who I have not seen post a day like that, at least running the ball so far this year, Christian McCaffrey. Would be nice to see a line like that for CMC. We've sure seen the 25 carries plenty of times, but 161 and 2 touchdowns would be pretty nice for CMC. But this is the crux of their offense. Their run game is the main thing that you got to stop. You got to contain Tony Pollard in order to make sure that you have this game in hand and that you don't give them that false confidence that Crocky was just talking about earlier. So, Crocky, how do they do that? How are they going to slow down this dynamic running back that they have? And really, Tajay Spears, too, he's had some decent weeks this year so far, too. I don't think you can discredit him as well. That's going to be a 1-2 punch, I think, that they're going to be dealing with. So what are the 49ers going to have to do to slow this run game down?
Yeah, I think the best way to stop a run game is to take them out of being able to run the ball. And the way the 49ers could try to do that is to score early. You get up a couple scores, now a team is a little less likely to run the ball as much as they would like. Heck, a few weeks ago, we watched the 49ers play primetime television against a running back that was carrying the ball a ton. Can't think of the name off the top of my head right now. One was Bijan Robinson, but there was another time as well. But essentially, in the game, gosh, what running back was that? The Carolina Panthers. It was their 2 running backs. Rico Dowdle was a guy who was getting a ton of carries. And the 49ers playing keep away with the ball, controlling the time of possession, getting up on them a little. Now, they weren't up a lot, but it was like 10-3 or whatever the score was at halftime. But it felt like Carolina was really far behind. So when you kind of get that feeling and the flow of the game isn't going in your way, it can kind of take you out of rhythm as a play caller and take you away from some of the things that you ideally want to do, which is run the ball. So I think 49ers just get out early, get on top, and I think that will throw the Titans out of rhythm, and that will probably slow down the run game more than anything else.
That's a really good recall on your part, Crocky. The exact score at halftime was 10-3. You nailed it. And Rico Dowdle got so far, and the Panthers got so far out of their game script that Dowdle only carried the ball 6 times in that game. And that was something that we talked about extensively after that one. I was shocked that the Panthers just gave up on the run game so easily. But yeah, I think that's.
And what was his yards per carry? Yards per carry. Was it like 6 yards per carry?
Yeah, 6.3. Look at you, man. Do you have this right in front of you? I mean, man, for you to just be pulling this mentally is impressive. But yeah, Dowdle, 6 carries, 38 yards, 6.3 yards per carry. He had a long of 17. And Chuba Hubbard also ripped off a 10-yard run as well. He had a 5.3 yard per carry average, 3 carries for 16 yards. But between those 2 running backs, he only had 9 handoffs. Bryce Young also scrambled for 4 times. So they only had 13 rushes, but a 5.3 yard per carry average. I mean, they had 69 rushing yards, which, I mean, just not really what you want from a team if you're the Panthers, that, your motto is keep pounding and you love to run that football. And Rico Dowdle has been one of the best in the NFL at doing that. And that's a very good, I think, comparison of what the 49ers could do to the Titans in this coming week, because Tony Pollard, although he has not been as effective of a rusher as say, Rico Dowdle, he's still, got 743 rush yards this year so far. It's 19th in the NFL. So, I mean, he's not setting the world on fire particularly, but he's also not just some scrub back there that you can just kind of write off and you don't really got a game plan for. This guy is going to be the focal point of their offense. And in order to slow him down, I think that, keeping the ball out of his hand is a great way to do it. If you force the Titans into a situation where they feel like they're going to have to throw the ball into predictable passing situations, you talk about keeping the ball away from them, getting them into a bad game script and making them play from behind. Well, how about stopping them on early downs too? I mean, if you can prevent this team from being in second and manageable or third and manageable, I think if you force Cam Ward to sit back and have a 5-step drop where he's trying to throw the ball on, a 3rd and 7. That's exactly what the 49ers want to see all day long, because Cam Ward is not going to be the kind of guy who is going to be able to get through his progressions and find the open man. He's going to, as Dwayne said, kind of panic, pull that ball down if he feels that pressure. And I fully expect Robert Saleh to draw up something to help the 49ers get some pressure. And in their last game against the Browns, that was probably the best pass rush that we've seen from the 49ers to this point. I think that Shedeur Sanders probably helped them out a little bit by the way he plays, just holding on to that ball and just patting it every time he went to make a throw. But I think you're going to see more similarities from Cam Ward. This is a guy who likes to try and make those off-balance throws. He'll kind of drop down and do some sidearm stuff, do his best Patrick Mahomes impression. And I think the 49ers are going to have some opportunities here to really mess up what the Titans want to do offensively. And I honestly don't expect a ton of resistance from this Titans defense. As you said, Crocky, near the bottom of the league in most defensive categories and by most metrics. They are just not a very good football team. So I'm looking for the offense to kind of get rolling a little bit. I want to see a good game from Brock Purdy. I want to see a game with minimal turnovers, and I want to see a game where things go as they should, as 49ers fans think they should, which is Brock getting, a couple scores through the air, making, some nice throws. Minimal turnovers or no turnovers would be great. And seeing Christian McCaffrey get 100 yards on the ground, I think would be a nice little just piece of motivation or just would get your mind right as a 49er player or fan. I think that'd be a good thing to see, especially heading into the end of the schedule. The latter part of this December schedule is a gauntlet, as we've talked about a lot on this show. But first up is the Titans. Got to make sure you take care of business here, because if the 49ers win this game, they have a 95% chance to make the playoffs, according to NFL.com. If they lose this game, still pretty good odds, but down to 82%. You're sitting there looking at the Lions in 8th place. They're 8-5 on the season. The Panthers in 9th, they're 7-6. But the 49ers did win over them, and they so they have the head-to-head tiebreaker, and the 49ers also have a better conference or a division record rather than the Panthers do. So the 49ers do have the tiebreaker in that situation, but the Lions kind of scare me, man. And so, Crocky, if you had to just kind of look into the crystal ball, how many more games do you think the 49ers need to win to make the playoffs? And I'm not saying I'm just giving you this one as a win. So looking at the entire rest of the schedule that is yet to be played, how many more wins do you need for the Niners to get in? And who do you think they're beating?
Well, I think things are set up for the 49ers to get some W's. You got, and now again, it's any given Sunday, I understand that, right? But let's just talk about like when the 49ers be favored. And I would expect the 49ers to be favored in at least 3 out of 4 of these last games, and maybe even in the last game. Since it's a home game for the 49ers, that one's probably going to be on primetime television with the Seahawks. I think that's going to be a big one right there. But I like the Niners against the Titans. I like the Niners against the Colts with Phillip Rivers having to come back. I mean, Dwayne Board joked about it off air and talked about how Rivers has grandchildren now, and so he's an old quarterback. But my thing is this: realistically speaking, obviously he's older. We saw this kind of with Tom Brady, but Tom Brady never stopped playing. So yes, he was a 45-year-old quarterback, but he was a 45-year-old quarterback who had been coming off of MVP type seasons. Phillip Rivers has been out of football since COVID. So to just get off the couch, and that's not to say that he hasn't thrown at all, but to throw in a way to where you're going to be, legitimately effective at the NFL level, it's hard to fathom seeing that, especially with the time off. Now, there's been some guys, the quarterback that was with Baltimore, then went to the Colts. Names are, I think my memory bank of names is kind of clogged up in my head, so I forget these names of people that I know. Joe Flacco, that's what I'm talking about. All right, Joe Flacco essentially came off the couch and did well, but he wasn't out of football for 4 years or however long it's been. So,
and he's not 44 years old.
And he's not 44 years old. So I kind of like the 49ers against the Titans. I feel like they should, have a good thing going against the Colts. And then it's going to come down to, all right, you got the Bears at home, and then you got the Seahawks You better win that Bears game. But 49ers, I really feel like they have a really good opportunity, especially playing 3 out of these 4 games at home.
Yeah, and it kind of bodes in the 49ers' favor the way that all this shook out, right? Like they played so many road games at the start of the season. To have these, 3 of those last 4 games at home is, I think, very, very, very valuable for the 49ers. And yeah, what you were saying, Crocky, there have been quarterbacks that are older than Phillip Rivers play in the NFL. I think George Blanda was like 48 in his last year with the Raiders, even though he did not play a game that season. I remember Vinny Testaverde playing some games at like 44, 45 years old. So we've seen it before. It's not like it hasn't been done. But yeah, I mean, the thing that shocked me when I watched that Phillip Rivers press conference was amongst a lot of other things that shocked me from that press conference. But one of the first things that he said was, it's great to be here, not on Zoom. And my mind immediately teleported back into COVID times. And that feels like a long time ago for me. And in like a normal like time perspective, but in NFL years, that feels like a freaking eternity, man. Like Dwayne, if you were out of the NFL for 4 or 5 years at any point in time in your career, how tough would that have been to come back? I mean, not just saying it like 45 years old. If you were to take 5 years off, 4 or 5 years off at 30 and try to come back at 35 years old, I mean, that would seem pretty tough to me too. Like, how feasible is it for a guy to come back from something like this and be out of football for this long and actually be, serviceable? Like, is that feasible?
I really don't think it's that feasible because, you think about it, he hasn't dropped back. He hasn't backpedaled in 5 years. And at home, even if he's on the treadmill, he's not backpedaling on the treadmill, okay? And those hamstrings are going to tighten up on him after the first game, and then the second game is going to come around. And after about 2 snaps, the hamstrings are going to lock up on him. And the best thing for him, he should have just waited around and waited for the people to call his name in Canton, which I don't think he's a Canton guy. But when Dion says they need 2 rooms, but with him they need a 3rd room. But I think, man, Croc, it. Older you get, the harder it is for you to come back, man. You take one hit, the first thing that's going to come to his mind is, what the hell am I doing out here with these young guys? And your brain, I told a story about when we had Jerry Rice up in Seattle at the end of his career, and I was walking through the locker room after practice one day, and one kid was on the phone talking to his mom, and he was telling his mom, hey, I covered Jerry Rice all over the field. And I'm saying, man, Jerry Rice was 42 years old, and you telling your mom that you covered him all over the field. Hey, back in the day, Jerry Rice would have got you cut the first day, kid. And that's the thing, with Jerry was his body was in shape. His mind was in better shape. When your mind think you can still do it, but your body don't, it's time to walk away from the game. And Phillip Rivers, he should have said bye-bye to the game when he left back 5 years ago. And at the end of his career.
I think we all know when you don't use it, you lose it. I remember being out of football for 2 years, and then getting out there and playing flag football. Hips weren't quite as loose. Ankles were a little tighter. So I'm curious to see what type of shape he's in. He must have impressed, though, because I'm assuming he had a workout. They probably had him throwing. And I guess it probably looked good enough, at least good enough for them to sign him.
Okay, they probably put him in shotgun. They didn't have him dropping back, Croc. They was running the offense from shotgun, where all he's going to do is take one step backwards and get the ball out. And how long
playing 7-on-7s wearing the red uni?
Yeah, and he's going to come into the game, and first thing he's going to see is, man, I'm seeing 8, 9, 10 receivers out there, but he's counting the guys on defense. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, it's we'll definitely get into the Phillip Rivers angle a little bit more when we get into Colts week. But one more interesting stat for you guys. I read that his center was 1 year old when Phillip Rivers made his NFL debut, just to give you some perspective of just how long ago it was that Phillip Rivers was like a guy breaking into the league. I mean, it has been a long time since number 17 was out there looking like a spry young man. So we'll see what he looks like this week, I guess. But 49ers do get a little bit of a break with the Danny Dimes injury, and obviously that completely changes the entire makeup of that Colts offense with how effective Jonathan Taylor will be in that run game and all those things that we will get into at length when we get into Colts week. But we were just talking about the 49ers and what you need to do in order to get into the playoffs. Well, the 49ers could get a little bit of help this week because the Lions and the Rams play each other. And if the Rams beat the Lions, that gives you a little bit of buffer between the 49ers and the Lions for that playoff spot. I mean, the Niners aren't in last place. That would be the Bears currently holding the final NFC wild card, but it put a little bit more separation between the Lions and the Niners in the loss column, which would be convenient. And the other side of that coin is if the Lions do win, well, now the 49ers are looking at maybe even being able to get back into first place in the NFC West type discussions. Obviously, you'd need to beat the Seahawks later in the season and pretty much win out if you were the 49ers or hope for some Seahawks losses. But either way, that game between the Lions and the Rams will be a big deal for the 49ers and the NFC playoff picture as a whole. We will see how that all shakes out. We got to get into some more things on today's show. We got a lot to talk about, man. The 49ers signed a bunch of guys during this bye week. Will any of them make an impact? Let's talk about that next here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Mint Mobile. You know, there's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to make your overpriced phone bill take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. Setup only takes a few minutes. You can bring your own phone and save your phone number without any issues. And man, that's a big plus because it is so inconvenient to have to change all that, try to move all your contacts over. And the service, it's fast and super reliable, even on the go. And it feels good knowing that if you're overpaying or that you're not overpaying just to stay connected. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. It's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 a month equivalent, taxes and fees in initial plan term only. More than 35 gigabytes may slow down when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, who just barely made it out of that Mint Mobile read with my life. Still in, and we're also joined by
in there. Peacock reads he does all the ad reads. Peacock is amazing. He's great at it, just rolls off his tongue, got the voice for it. Me, anytime I'm responsible for ad reads, I butcher it every time.
Man, it is. Let me tell you, as someone who figured out that they were dyslexic in elementary school, it's tough reading the exact ad copy. You know, my favorite ads are the ones that just say, you know, ad lib here, do whatever you want. That's great, right up my alley. But we're back here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Eric Crocker, half of the Locked On 49ers podcast, and 4-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board. And the 49ers, we broke down a little bit of how they're going to match up with this Titans team, what they're going to need to do to win, what they're going to need to do to get into the postseason as this year starts to wind down in the month of December. But we got to talk about some guys that the 49ers brought into the facility over the bye week and some guys that they picked up. And they picked up four notable signings. You had Eric Kendricks, linebacker, who's should be pretty well known to most NFL fans. And past that, it gets a little in the weeds. You got Javon Baker, who was a former 4th-round pick from the Patriots, wide receiver. You also got Isaiah Bolden, also former Patriot cornerback. And you got linebacker Garrett Wallow from the Broncos. And so you bringing in a lot of new faces in the month of December. It's pretty late in the season to be bringing in some guys, but the 49ers have been pretty shorthanded. And we know that wide receiver has been just kind of a choose your own adventure of mediocrity so far this year. And we've had a lot of injuries at linebacker. And the one that's most interesting to me, and I think that is probably most interesting to the rest of the 49er faithful, is the Eric Kendricks signing, because this is a position that the 49ers are lacking in a lot. And this is a guy that the 49ers actually brought in earlier this season and tried to sign him to the practice squad, and he didn't really want to do that. So interesting to me, Eric Kendricks was signed now. He did say to 49ers reporters after practice in Santa Clara, he said, quote, "I just wanted to do what felt right. And a lot of things didn't feel right. So I just waited. I've always respected the organization, the coaching staff, and the way they play defense. When I got an opportunity to be a part of the team, I took it." And he also mentioned the 49ers next man up mentality in managing injuries. He said, quote, "I've watched everybody kind of step up and the way they've responded. It was inspiring to watch. Through all the adversity they faced, they seem to just like to fight." And that's good news coming from Eric Kendricks, because it's like music to my ears. That's exactly what I want to hear from a guy that kind of did this 180, right? I mean, it seemed a little I'm not going to say I'm not going to compare him to last year's linebacker, who I'm not even going to throw out his name, who just quit on the team halfway through the season. We don't even need to make that comparison, but you don't want quitters, right? Bringing back Mike Singletary, I want winners, and that's what Eric Kendricks is sounding like to me right now. He's sounding like a winner, and he's sounding like a guy who's willing to just kind of step into the role and do what's needed of him, and just be that next man up. And Crocky, I want to get your take on this, because on one hand, it's a guy who, you know, like we were just talking about with Phillip Rivers, has probably been just kind of chilling and the last year or so. And it's going to be tough for him to just ramp up his body and get back into playing shape in the month of December and be able to contribute. I mean, that's a huge, huge, huge ask. But the 49ers are so damn thin at linebacker that this guy actually might have a chance to make some major contributions and get some major playing time for the 49ers. So, Crocky, what are your expectations of Eric Kendricks in the 49er red and gold?
You know, hopefully the 49ers have done a really good job of getting him up to speed with everything. When I mean with everything, not this scheme part, I mean with his body, you know, and kind of going through like a ramp-up stage of, you know, making sure they're preparing him the right way to be able to play in the game and get legit snaps. The 49ers are very youthful at linebacker, especially since Fred Warner was out. I mean, they were youthful at linebacker with Fred Warner, and obviously he was the one holding everything down. You lose him, and you start to lose some other young guys, you're in a world of trouble. So right now they need all the help they can get at the linebacker position. And, you know, a lot of guys are going to go to a veteran to try to help them in this situation. And we've seen veterans be able to fill in for the 49ers and do well. Look at Clelin Ferrell. He's a legit vet, and he's kind of been a journeyman. You know, obviously he had a stint with the 49ers, but he's come in and all he's done is like lead the 49ers in sacks since he showed up. So you look at a guy like Kendricks, I'm not saying he's going to have that type of impact, but you hope that the veteran aspect, the mental, the savviness, the leadership part, him understanding what he's trying to do to help this 49ers team win, I'm hoping that it works out. But yeah, he is, you know, getting up there a little bit in age too.
Yeah, he's not exactly the youngest linebacker on this roster, but he's a guy who's been around, and maybe that kind of helps him get acclimated, schematically to what the 49ers are going to want to do. And Dwayne, I'm curious, what would that entail? Like when you come into a team, middle of the season, like what's that got to be like? I mean, I know that you can maybe give us a little bit of perspective what that fire drill might be like when you're coming into a new team and you're not really familiar with the language that they speak on that in that coaching staff and in those film rooms. What's that kind of take? What's the timeline like for a guy getting up to speed with all that?
Well, with veterans, they get up to speed a lot faster than, say, a first-year guy or a second-year guy because, they've been around and they've seen how teams play and what they play, and that's one thing that's the best thing that's in his corner is because of his age and being around for so long. But when you come into a situation where, like the 49ers, you're going to have you wish you had the older guys there. You wish you had the Fred Warner there. You wish you had those guys there who will help you get lined up during the game. Now you got a bunch of first and second year guys out there, and it's going to be he's going to be looking around saying, "Oh man, what do I do? Who can he turn to? Who can he turn to?" Okay, and that's the thing. When you're older and you got older players who you can say, "Hey man, what am I doing? What am I doing on this defense? What am I doing?" And you got a guy out there that's coaching you as you line up. But when you got guys out there who's playing that's not quite so sure of what they're doing themselves, it's going to be hard to get an answer from them. You're going to have to almost beat them. Say, "Hey man, what am I doing? What am I doing?" So it comes down to being an older vet that's going to help you along the way some, but you need some more vets around you to show you exactly what you're doing and how they do it. And like Croc said, the 49ers, man, if it's two positions that they really are weak at, it's the defensive line and linebackers, and that's one thing that going down the road in the playoffs that they're going to need the most because teams are going to start running the ball. It's December, and we talked about what December is. December is playoff time, and you can't go into a game thinking that, hey, maybe we're not ready for this. Maybe we're not ready for the Tennessee Titans. But you can't say that. You got to go in ready. And like Ronnie used to say, man, you got to bring a little tail to get a little tail. So,
and Kendricks, I think, is going to be probably the guy that's relied upon most of these four that they've brought in this week. But he's not the only one, right? They also brought in another linebacker, Garrett Wallow, who was playing with the Broncos most recently. And I think that this move is kind of signifying that Tatum Bethune is about a week away still. He's not quite ready to come back is what this tells me. And it also tells me that Wallow is probably coming in. Like they didn't want one guy to come in and be splitting reps between special teams and defense. I think that this would probably mean you're going to have one guy go and focus on playing defense on the field and one guy go and focus on some special teams reps. And what this, if I'm reading the tea leaves, I think it's probably Wallow who's headed to the special teams, and it's probably Eric Kendricks who's going to be filling in, playing linebacker for the 49ers. So maybe just an extra body, but hey, the 49ers need all the warm bodies they can get right now, man, because that injury list is extensive. And Crocky, are you getting the same kind of vibe from the Garrett Wallow thing? It also just seemed like something that the 49ers could do because they had so many other moving parts, right? They put Ben Barch onto IR and to free up a roster spot. You also have Eddie Pinheiro getting healthy this week, so you can get rid of Matt Gay, and which also frees up yet another practice squad spot. So you had some spots. Is this more just filling out the practice squad, or is this a guy who we actually might see play a couple snaps for special teams?
I think if you're bringing in a guy that is a special teamer, then you do want an opportunity to bring him up and play on the active roster if he could help you. The one thing that has been, I don't want to say shocking, but maybe we've overlooked it a little bit, is just how well the 49ers special teams has been playing this season.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. The last few years, everybody has complained about the 49ers special teams, and for a lot of those years, it just was not good. And more times, not just flat out bad. So to see them actually not just be serviceable this season, but the 49ers special teams has been really good. Between, kicking field goals to, the kick return. We've seen some explosive returns, the punt return game, what they've done in coverage. 49ers has been terrific on all special teams unit, and maybe we can attest that to them bringing in a new special teams coordinator.
Yeah, and I definitely think that that's a huge piece of why the 49ers have been able to kind of, weather the storm that they've faced as far as injuries go this year, because you're getting a lot of those hidden yards and you're not putting your offense in bad positions by, getting bad kick returns and you're not muffing punts and turning the ball over on special teams, and you're not giving up huge kick returns at massive key points in games. None of those things are happening this year, all of which happened last year. Like, I can think of multiple instances last year in which the 49ers gave up big kick returns that immediately let teams back into games. I'm thinking like of the Laviska Shenault kick return for a touchdown. I'm thinking of like the Tutu Atwell big return that set up the Rams comeback and their win over the 49ers last year. So special teams has been a big deal for the 49ers this year. And I mean, any move to kind of bolster that unit, I'm all about it. Let's keep making let's make special teams great again, in the year 2025 for the San Francisco 49ers. But that's not all of the signings. We got to get through these other two as well. Isaiah Bolden, cornerback for the New England Patriots, or formerly from the New England Patriots, now comes on over to the 49ers. He is another guy who I feel like is just kind of filling out the practice squad roster. But again, I mean, the secondary for the 49ers, the defense as a whole has been kind of banged up at certain points, and it doesn't hurt to have any extra warm bodies. He was targeted on seven times on 79 passing downs last season in 2024. So, I mean, he hasn't had a ton of NFL action, and I don't personally expect to see this guy make a big impact, and I think you guys are probably feeling the same way. But I want to get to the last guy, Javon Baker, because this is the one that I don't really have a read on what this guy is going to do for the 49ers. I mean, he was drafted last season by the Patriots, and he didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, he only had played in 11 games, only started one. He had 4 targets and 1 reception for 12 yards. But this was a guy who was a 4th-round pick, so obviously he did some things to impress some NFL scouts and has some talent. Dwayne, what do you think that the 49ers are going to do with him? You think they give him a shot out there with the rest of the wide receivers? I mean, it's not – I feel like it's kind of like a what do you got to lose type situation, because it's not like anybody out there has really, shown that they should be on the field and that they are irreplaceable for the 49ers as far as wide receivers go this year. So what do you expect to see from Javon Baker? Maybe getting in for a few snaps this week, or do you think that he'll maybe be someone we see a little bit later on in the season after he gets acclimated to the offense a little bit?
Well, at this point in the season, they're pretty much bringing him in for legs and to run the look team, and maybe do something with him next year, okay? Because he hasn't set the world on fire, because we know New England didn't have the best of the best receivers last year, and to be targeted 7 times, only 1 reception, hey, and that probably was an accident, that 1 reception, but back in the day, you would say, hey, he's just coming in again just to keep spot warm in the locker room, and that's what he is basically right now. They're just going to use him as a look guy to run routes for the defense, and also give some of the guys a break on doing practice for the starting receivers. But we still haven't seen anything out of Ricky yet. It's time for him to break out. He's kind of like, hey, is he on the team, or isn't on the team, or is it his sophomore jinx that's got him down? It's time for him to show up. The season is well underway. There's no excuses left, man. Come on. It's time for you to earn your pay.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ricky Pearsall coming alive for the 49ers here in December would just be the best thing that could happen to this team. That's what I think I left our last show off with last week on Wednesday, since we didn't have one on Sunday because there was no 49er game. But that's kind of when I was asking you guys, the 49ers, I was asking Dwayne, you and Peacock, what the 49ers will make the playoffs if what happens? And my answer to that question was if the 49ers can find a dynamic playmaker on offense. And I think that guy has to be Ricky Pearsall. Like, you already have Christian McCaffrey, and you know what he's going to give you this year. You know what the defenses are going to do to try and stop him this year. big plays coming from CMC from number 23 are going to be few and far between, unfortunately. And that's just a fact. That's just a fact of life at this point for the 49ers. And you got to find somebody else. And I think Ricky has to be that guy, because unless, you know, a Demarcus Robinson is going to step up, or a guy like that, I mean, maybe the 49ers turn to Jordan James in the backfield and he clicks or something. But all of these things would be highly unlikely. The best option the 49ers have to find a playmaker on the offensive side of the ball at this point in the season is just to have Ricky, you know, start to live up to some of those expectations that he had on him coming into this season. I don't know if he's going to do it though, man. Crocky, do you have a lot of confidence in Ricky Pearsall being able to turn into this dynamic playmaker in the last month of the season?
Dynamic playmaker, I wouldn't say that, because we haven't seen a whole lot of him being dynamic in a sense. But I do see a guy that can kind of give you some catch and run opportunities on those deep crossers. I believe that his time away from the 49ers while being hurt, and obviously not, while he's hurt, he's not building that continuity with Brock Purdy. I think that kind of went away, and I don't know if they're trying to get that feel back, or is it Kyle Shanahan trying to figure out again how Ricky Pearsall would best be suited in his offense. You have George Kittle, who's kind of picking things up as of late. You have Christian McCaffrey, who's gotten a heavy load with catching the ball out of the backfield. And there's still guys like Juwan Jennings that they count on a lot as well. So I think right now it's Ricky Pearsall trying to figure out, where does he fit in? I think Kyle's trying to figure that out as well.
Croc, this is another question too, that what about Sky Moore? How can they fit him into the scheme a little bit? Because he just flashed that he has a vision to run the ball, and he has a little burst to him. In some kind of way, they need to figure out a way to get him into the scheme too. If it's just throwing the hot screen to him, or getting him ball in his hands some kind of way and let him run with it. That's a guy that can play a part in the offense too.
Yeah, maybe slide him into like the wide back role that we used to see Deebo Samuel in a lot. And I mean, I don't think he could handle maybe that level of usage, but I mean, getting him in on a few jet sweeps, maybe some screens, maybe line him up in the backfield and see if you can hit him in the flat on some like design clear out plays like that. That might be something. I don't hate that. I mean, really, the 49ers need to try some new stuff to find some explosive plays, right? Like, I'm not saying I lack confidence in Kyle Shanahan as like an offensive mind and being able to tap into some of the things that the 49ers need to do. He's clearly much more much better at that than 99% of humans to walk on the face of the planet. But I mean, I would like to see some more creativity out of Kyle with some of these guys. Like Sky Moore, I think would be great in that wide back role, at least in some limited looks. And again, this is the same kind of thing I said about Javon Baker. What do you got to lose, man? Like who? So you lose a play or two of Demarcus Robinson snaps. Bummer, man. Like that's really not going to impact the results of the game for the 49ers one way or another. Why not see if Sky Moore can pop? He was a guy who was drafted very, very, very high by the Chiefs. And, I know it didn't work out there in Kansas City, but would definitely like to see him get some opportunities here with not just the special teams, but get him the ball in space. You've seen him, what he can do with the ball in his hand with some of these big returns. He absolutely can make some guys miss and has that speed that I think is really lacking on the 49ers offense. And Crocky, you've talked a lot on a lot of our shows about the lack of speed in this 49ers team. Do you think that a guy like Sky Moore adding some speed could maybe be a little bit of a game changer for them?
Yeah, he helps. And if it's not just speed, being able to just outrun everybody or win vertically, he's clearly someone that has a really good feel for spacing. So just being able to utilize that, get the ball in his hands, and where maybe he creates some plays, 15 plus yards that maybe weren't there. So an explosive play doesn't just have to be somebody taking it 60 yards. It could be a 18-yard play. That is an explosive play. However you do it, whether it's a screen or hitting him on a slant and him getting, a few yards after the catch. I think the 49ers definitely can utilize his skill set with that ability.
Yeah, and I mean, get him involved in like some sweeps, some pitch plays. Like we saw Deebo able to do some of those things out of the backfield too. I bet you Sky Moore could probably give you a little bit of what we saw from Deebo Samuel as well. Similar body type.
Deebo is different though. Like it's hard comparing people to Deebo. He's just such a unique football player, just with his build and then his ability to accelerate. It was just out of this world. So I think there's a lot of people that wish that they can get even just some sort of a guy that has some type of Deebo Samuel ability. The only other guy I've seen that has that kind of like, hey, just get the ball in his hands, like, recently is probably like Tyreek Hill. He was another one of those guys that, people didn't view him as a gadget guy, but if you watch a lot of his usage in Kansas City, they would get the ball in his hands however they can. Quicks, hitches, screens, end arounds, jet sweeps, shovel passes, all type of different ways. So you had him and you have Deebo, different type of body frames, but both very dynamic what they did. It is very difficult to replicate that. The NFL has been trying to do that since Deebo's rookie year, and we just haven't seen anybody succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I think trying to run any linebacker, out of the backfield is going to be a tough challenge. But Deebo was obviously, I think for his size, he was able to punch above his weight. He was stronger than people I think would assume just looking at his body. But yeah, I mean, definitely would not want Sky Moore to get the amount of usage that Deebo got back there. But maybe you can catch some guys off guard with big Sky Moore coming out in the backfield and seeing what you can do back there. Again, maybe not use him as a wide back as often as you were putting Deebo Samuel in the role. Like maybe not game plan around that, but just as a wrinkle, you know what I mean? Like just a couple plays here and there. I don't know, man. I just want to see the 49ers try something new because this offense has been pretty lethargic this year for the majority of the season. I mean, we've seen certain points where they've been able to find some success with that when you got George Kittle clicking and finding some space over the middle and when Jawan Jennings is, being third and Jawan and getting you that first down when you need it, moving the chains. And when Christian McCaffrey is able to find some room to run with that offensive line block, in which hopefully this week, if there's one team that you should be able to move that pile against, it is probably the Tennessee Titans. So I would really like to see Christian McCaffrey get going. And maybe this is just the week where the 49ers can build some confidence on offense and maybe try some new things, because if there's a team to try it against to see if it's going to work, this is the time, man. Yeah, the 2-11 Titans, you can afford a couple like, okay, well, that play didn't work. Let's try it. Let's scrap that one and just get back to doing what we were doing. This is the week to try it out if you're gonna try some stuff. So we'll see what the 49ers do. Either way, I'm expecting a 49ers win. And I think you guys are too. Let's get into some predictions on the other side. What's going to happen when the 49ers take on the Tennessee Titans this Sunday? That's what we'll break down next here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment by playing live spreads and money lines, adjust instantly, player props update as guys heat up, and you can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more just to keep it interesting, and it keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. And right now, the 49ers are minus 12.5 on FanDuel. And while that is a huge number, I'm laying the points and I'm taking the 49ers, man, against the Tennessee Titans. I think the 49ers will win this one, and I think they will win this one handedly, which we are going to break down in our next segment. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E. Engel, joined by my guys, Eric Crocker, one half of the Locked On 49ers podcast, and Dwayne Board, four-time Super Bowl champion. And guys, I mean, I kind of tipped my hand right there a little bit with the FanDuel read. So I'll give my prediction first. I'm taking the 49ers, and I'm taking them big, man. I think the 49ers win by 2 or 3 scores in this one. I'm going to I think the Titans are going to really struggle to move the football against this Robert Saleh defense. And my big prediction for this week, I think Robert Saleh makes it 3 games in a row where the 49ers give up single-digit points to their opponent. I think that they hold the Titans to 9, and I think the 49ers win this one. We'll say 24-9. Big win for the Niners on tap. So with that, let's go to you, Dwayne. What do you think is going to happen in this game? How do you think the 49ers do against the Titans? And is this ending up in the win column or the loss column?
Well, I think with this game coming up against the Tennessee Titans, I think it's going to be one of those games where the 49ers are going to probably come up well in the sack stats, where I'm looking at 4 sacks and probably 3 turnovers. So that's going to put them at a +3. If you can come in as +3, then you got a chance to cover the spread. So that's what I'm going with. I'm going with the 49ers covering the spread by 2 points. And the Tennessee Titans, all they do is taking a ride to the West Coast to see where the Super Bowl is going to be played.
If you, it's a nice consolation prize for the Titans, just getting to come and look at Levi's a couple months before the Super Bowl.
For the Super Bowl. It's going to be, they're going to get off the bus and going to go, wow, Super Bowl 60 is going to be played in this stadium. And guess what? You guys will be in Tennessee watching it on TV.
I mean, there's always a chance that they could buy a ticket and come to Levi's. You know what I mean, Dwayne? go sit out there like the rest of us and just watch.
Oh yeah, they could come and watch from up on the bridge over the overpass.
And Crocky, are you feeling a 49er touchdown too, or a 49er win? Hopefully multiple 49er touchdowns against this Titans defense. What do you foresee happening in your crystal ball?
Yeah, everything we've seen from the Tennessee Titans to this point is that they struggle to score points. And I don't think that it changed against the 49ers. Now, granted, the 49ers don't have the best defense that they've had, in recent years, but I'm not sure the Tennessee Titans have the guys to be able to take advantage of that. So I'm with you. The 49ers still have terrific players on offense. Still got George Kittle, got Brock Purdy back there at quarterback, Christian McCaffrey, still waiting for Ricky Pearsall to get going. But if he does, the compliment of him and Juwan Jennings, I think that'd be a little too much for the Tennessee Titans, coupled with a special teams unit that's playing much better. So, yeah, I like the 49ers big in this game as well.
Can't forget about that 49ers special teams unit. And sounds like all of us are laying the points here. I mean, I think the 49ers are going to absolutely stomp the Titans. To kind of circle back to where we started the show, you don't forget about the opponent you got after the bye week. Like, it's kind of hard to have the bye week and have all that time to focus on the next opponent and overlook them. So I think the 49ers do their job. I think they don't overlook the Titans. I think they avoid the trap game, and I think that they end up with a win in Santa Clara. And that's what they need, man. They just got to keep winning. And like I said earlier in the show, if the 49ers win this game, 95% chance to make the postseason. So this is a big one for the 49ers. And we'll also be keeping one eye on that Lions-Rams game, which is going to have major, major implications as well. We got to take one more quick break here. But on the other side, we will wrap up this show, put a bow on it, send you on your way to hopefully what will be a nice 49ers victory weekend against the Tennessee Titans at Levi Stadium. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Eric Crocker, one half of the Locked On 49ers podcast, and Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion. And guys, I gotta let you know, Sunday I won't be here. Hopefully we'll get Peacock back in the chair. He's got some stuff he's dealing with and managing right now, but hopefully we'll be able to get him in for Sunday. If not, we'll figure it out, man. We'll figure out what we're going to do on Sunday. But I personally will be going to Austin, Texas to go see my guy, Billy Strings. Are either of you guys bluegrass fans? Either of you getting into the bluegrass music scene at all? And Crocky, no?
Not me anytime soon.
Not me neither. Hey, Billy.
Well, hey, man, I mean, I personally, before I started listening to this guy, I'm not like a big bluegrass aficionado. Like, I'll go to Hardly Strictly Bluegrass here in San Francisco because it's walking distance from my house, and I kind of feel like if there's a music festival that's walking distance from your house, regardless of if you like the music or not, you should probably go. You know what I mean? But Billy Strings, if you haven't checked him out, you should. I know this isn't a music podcast, but Billy Strings is for my money, one of the best guitar players alive right now, man. And I am absolutely hyped to go see him out in Austin, Texas, the Lone Star State. My first time going to Austin, so that'll be a good time. I'm going to try and head down to the Mothership, the big comedy club down there on 6th Street. So fun weekend out for Triple E, but hopefully you guys will be able to hold it down with Peacock on Sunday. Hopefully after a 49er win over the Titans, man. I mean, I think that all the pieces are laid out for a 49er win. All the particles are in motion already to seal this win, but they got to just go out and do it, right? Any given Sunday, you can't overlook anybody, but it is the 49ers coming off the bye week against the worst team in the NFL that is by almost every metric just absolutely god-awful at playing football. Like, you can't, just to put it in the most simple, plain terms possible, the 49ers should go in there and whoop the Tennessee Titans. All of us are taking the 49ers all of us are basically said we'd lay the points and take the 49ers. I know I'm a little bit more of a degenerate betting man than my co-host here. So I'll probably be doing that, man, on this weekend. I think the 49ers take care of business against the Tennessee Titans. What about you guys? Any fun plans this weekend for you, Crocky? You got anything going on this weekend?
Nah, not this weekend, chilling, watching the game. But next weekend, I actually may attend the 49ers Bears game. So nothing too exciting this weekend, though.
And what about you, Dwayne? What do you got on tap?
Well, hey, I'm like Croc, man. I'm gonna let this game ride by me, but hey, I'm going to see the Bears, and that shuffle.
The Super Bowl shuffle. You guys going to be, bringing back the 85 Bears Super Bowl shuffle. Crocky and Dwayne Board doing the 85 Bears Super Bowl shuffle in the Santa Clara state, in the Levi Stadium stands out there in Santa Clara. I don't see that happen personally.
Yeah, it's like two-stepping, just like you going down in Texas to do some two-stepping. Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Bringing it full circle.
Yeah.
Well, we will see how it all shakes out on Sunday when the 49ers take on the Titans out there at Levi's. But if it goes anyway, like we're all thinking it should result in another 49ers win. And I'm just saying, man, if the 49ers defense is able to hold this team to single-digit points, I mean, that's going to be a huge, huge, huge deal. I mean, when is the last time that the 49ers held 3 consecutive opponents to single-digit scores? I mean, I know that this defense has had its issues this year, but that would be a huge feather in the cap of Robert Saleh. I mean, to be able to take this group and put together that type of performance, I don't care who your opponents are. It's the National Football League, and everybody is a professional. So that would be a pretty amazing feat. I'll have to do some digging and see when the last time the 49ers defense was able to do that was. But that's about all the time that we got for you guys today here on the Locked On 49er Squad show. For my co-host, Eric Crocker, and Dwayne Board, I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Thanks so much for tuning in. Shout out all our everydayers. Make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube channel, on however you're getting the show, whatever podcast platform you're using. Make sure you're subbed up in all these spaces, because I mean, you watch the video, then you got to go back and get the audio version, man. You got to listen to the show a couple times, let it marinate, digest, and make sure you're tuning in to all of the Locked On 49ers podcast with Crocky and Brian Peacock. That's all the time we got for you guys today. We'll see you next time. Peace.